My dear friends, perhaps tonight you are lying in the dark with your body tired, but your mind still awake. The room is quiet. The world outside has lowered its voice. And yet, in your hand, a small screen keeps glowing like a cold blue lantern. You scroll once more. Someone has found love. Someone has bought a home. Someone your age seems to have arrived at the place you thought you would reach by now. And without meaning to, your heart begins to measure itself. Not with kindness, not with patience, but with the sharp little ruler of comparison. You may whisper, even without words, "Why am I still here? Why have I not become more? Why does everyone else seem to be blooming while I am still hidden beneath the water?" But my dear friends, in a lotus pond, not every life appears above the surface at the same time. Some flowers have opened to the sun, some buds are still closed, and some stems are still moving silently beneath the water, where no one claps, no one sees, and yet life is still rising. So tonight, my dear friends, we will not use this story to punish you. We will not say that you are lazy because you have not arrived. We will not say that your sadness is weakness, or that your quiet season means your life has gone wrong. A tired heart does not need another voice standing over it with a whip. It needs a lamp. It needs a bowl of water. It needs a place where it can stop defending itself for a while. The story we will enter comes from Old Path White Clouds, a Buddhist literary retelling of the life of the Buddha. In one quiet scene, the Blessed One stands before a lotus pond and sees that not all lotuses are in the same stage of opening. Some are still hidden in the mud. Some stems are still beneath the water. Some buds have risen but remain closed. Some flowers have already opened wide. This is not a story about winning. It is not a story about being seen first. It is a story about understanding that life does not ripen in one single shape. And as we listen, my dear friends, let us remember, karma is not a punishment placed upon you from the sky. Tonight, we will look at karma simply as the path your thoughts, words, and actions keep walking when the mind is tired. And perhaps, gently, we may learn to choose another step. Before we take that step, my dear friends, let the body know that it does not have to solve the whole of life tonight. Feel your shoulders for a moment, not forcing them down, not commanding them to release, simply noticing how long they have been carrying invisible things. If they soften even a little, let that be enough. Now feel the jaw, the small gate of the mouth. Perhaps it has been holding words you never said, questions you could not answer, a quiet defense against the day. Let the tongue rest. Let the space behind the teeth become still. Bring a gentle awareness to the chest. If there is tightness there, do not push it away. Let it be like a closed lotus bud resting on the surface of the pond. Not wrong, not late, only closed for now. Feel the breath entering and leaving. No need to make it deep. No need to make it holy. The breath already knows the path in and out. And beneath you, my dear friends, feel the bed holding your weight. You do not have to hold yourself up in this moment. Like water holding the stem of a lotus, something quiet is already carrying you. And so, my dear friends, let us enter the old story slowly. After the children had gone, after their young voices had faded from the shade of the trees, the Buddha arose and began to walk. There was no hurry in his steps. Nothing in him seemed to be reaching forward, and nothing in him seemed to be pulling back. He walked as a person walks when the earth is not a road to be conquered, but a companion beneath the feet. The air was quiet. The day held a gentle warmth, the kind that rises softly from the fields and settles on the skin like a thin robe. Around him, the world was simple, the breathing of the land, the pale movement of grasses, the faint wet scent of river water and soil. Somewhere, perhaps, small insects moved unseen among the stalks. Somewhere, the leaves answered a light wind with a sound almost too soft to be called sound. the Buddha came to the riverbank. There, he lifted the edge of his robe and stepped into the water. The river touched his feet, then his ankles, cool and patient. It did not ask where he had been. It did not ask where he was going. It only received each step and opened around it. When he reached the other side, he continued along a narrow path between two rice fields. The earth there was damp and living. The young rice stood in quiet rows, green and tender, drinking from the same world that held the river, the mud, the sky, and the body walking through it. Then, my dear friends, he came to a lotus pond he knew well. He stopped there. Before him, the surface of the pond rested in stillness. Beneath it, hidden life was rising. Above it, other forms had already opened into light. And in that ordinary pond, where mud, water, leaf, stem, bud, and flower all belonged together, the Buddha looked deeply. My dear friends, in that quiet moment by the pond, the only human figure in the scene was the Buddha. He did not stand there as a man looking for beauty to decorate his thoughts. He stood there as one who had looked deeply into suffering, not from far away, but from the inside of human life. He had seen hunger. He had seen fear. He had seen pride, ambition, grief, tenderness, confusion, and the strange loneliness that can live even inside a crowded world. And now, before him, the lotus pond held all of this without speaking. Near the bottom, hidden in the mud, there were lotus roots that no eye could admire. They had no color to offer the sky, no fragrance yet, no open petals, only the quiet labor of staying alive in darkness. A little higher, there were stems still beneath the water, rising slowly through the cool green depth. They had not reached the surface. They had not become leaves. They had not become flowers. But they were not dead. They were moving. Some leaves were still curled, half underwater, half touching the air, as if unsure whether the world was safe enough to open to. Some buds had already risen above the pond, but remained closed, holding their future tightly inside themselves. And some flowers had opened wide, white, blue, and rose-colored, receiving the light without apology. The Buddha looked at all of them. He did not ask the root why it was not a flower. He did not ask the closed bud why it was not already fragrant. He did not ask the flower in full bloom to return to the mud. Each form had its own dignity. And perhaps, my dear friends, this is where the pond begins to look back at us. For there are people who seem to bloom early. There are people whose gifts are visible, whose voices are praised, whose lives rise above the surface where everyone can see. And there are others who live for a long time in hidden places, carrying old wounds quietly, trying to grow while no one notices the effort. Some are not lazy. They are tired. Some are not broken. They are still forming. Some are not behind. They are carrying roots through mud no one else can see. So when you look at the closed place inside yourself tonight, look gently. It may not be failure. It may be a stem still finding its way through water. And as the Buddha looked into the pond, my dear friends, the lotus was no longer only lotus. The mud was no longer only mud. The water was no longer only water. The flower was no longer only flower. Each form became a quiet mirror of human life. There were roots hidden deep in the dark earth, doing their unseen work. There were stems rising through water, still without color, still without fragrance, still without any beauty that the world would stop to praise. There were leaves curled inward, not yet ready to open fully to the air. There were buds lifted above the surface, holding their petals close. And there were blossoms already open, wide and bright, receiving the light in silence. The Buddha saw that people are like this. No two beings open in exactly the same way. One person may be quick in understanding, but slow in tenderness. Another may carry great devotion, yet tremble before change. One may speak beautifully, but still be caught in pride. Another may seem simple to the eyes of the world, yet possess a heart already softened by suffering. Devdatta was not Ananda. Yasodhara was not Queen Pamita. Sujata was not Bala. Each life had its own mixture of strength and confusion, courage and fear, clarity and hidden wound. Each person carried causes and conditions that could not be measured from the outside. My dear friends, this is a very gentle seeing. It does not flatten people into one kind of flower. It does not demand that a root behave like a blossom, or that a closed bud apologize for not yet being fragrant. It does not say that everyone must enter the path through the same door, at the same hour, with the same readiness of heart. And perhaps this is where the old pond comes close to us. For when we compare ourselves to others, we often compare only the visible part of their life to the hidden part of our own. We compare their open petals to our buried roots, their sunlight to our mud, their arrival to our becoming. But a life cannot be understood only by what has appeared above the surface. Some parts of you may still be underwater. Some parts may still be curled. Some parts may have opened already, though you have not bowed to them with gratitude. So look gently. My dear friends, the pond does not shame its own depths. And from that seeing, my dear friends, another understanding opened. If beings are not the same, then the door into peace cannot be the same for everyone. The Buddha had not discovered a path in order to press all hearts into one shape. He had not awakened in order to demand that every life rise through the mud, the water, and the air in one identical way. A lotus root does not become a flower by being insulted. A closed bud does not open because the pond is impatient with it. Each one needs the right meeting of conditions. Some hearts can understand through silence, some through a story, some through the tenderness of being seen without shame, some through the pain of their own mistakes, some through the discipline of daily practice, some through a single moment when suffering becomes too honest to ignore. The old story tells us that the path of liberation needed to be expressed in many ways, so it could reach many kinds of people. These ways were like doors, not walls, not cages, doors. A door does not force the traveler. It simply opens where the traveler can enter. My dear friends, this is a very merciful truth, because many of us have suffered, not only from our pain, but from believing that we must heal in the same way another person healed. We think we must become calm the way they became calm. We must find success in the same season. We must forgive at the same speed. We must understand life with the same mind, the same language, the same strength. But the pond does not teach this. The pond lets the root remain in the mud. It lets the stem rise through water. It lets the leaf stay curled until it is ready. It lets the bud hold its petals closed. It lets the open flower receive the light. Nothing is expelled from the pond for not being somewhere else. So perhaps, tonight, you do not need to run faster toward a door that was never yours. Perhaps you only need to become quiet enough to notice the small door already near you. A breath, a softer word, one on a step. And perhaps that small door, my dear friends, is not far away. Perhaps it is waiting in the very place where your pain appears most often. There are nights when you are not trying to suffer. You are only tired. You only mean to look at your phone for a moment. One small moment before sleep. One little doorway of light in the dark room. Then you see it. A photograph of someone standing in front of a new home, smiling beneath warm windows. A message from a person who has found work that seems steady and meaningful. A face from your past, now surrounded by a family. A celebration. A life that appears to have become clear. And something in you sinks. Not because you hate them, not because you wish them harm, but because their visible blooming touches the place in you that still feels hidden. The chest becomes a little heavier. The throat becomes quiet. Your thumb pauses on the screen, then moves again, as if the next image might hurt less, or explain more. but often it only deepens the old question. Why am I still here? My dear friends, this is how comparison enters. It rarely comes with a loud voice. It comes softly, almost politely, carrying a measuring stick behind its back. It says, "Look, they have opened. You have not. They have risen above the water. You are still underneath." And if the mind is tired enough, it believes this. It forgets the lotus pond. It forgets that one life may be a root in mud, another a stem beneath water, another a closed bud, another an open flower. It forgets that what appears above the surface is never the whole story of what has been growing below. So the pain of one image becomes the story of your entire life. A home becomes proof that you are behind. A wedding becomes proof that you are unloved. A promotion becomes proof that your years have been wasted. Someone else's clear path becomes proof that your path has failed. But my dear friends, this is only the mind tightening around one small piece of reality. The pond does not say the hidden stem is worthless. The pond does not say the closed bud has missed its chance. Only the comparing mind says this. So tonight, when you remember the life of someone else, let it be just that, someone else's life, appearing for a moment above the surface. And then, very gently, return to the life that has been entrusted to you, the one still breathing here, the one still forming here, the one that may not be finished, but is not abandoned. My dear friends, suffering often begins with something very small. A picture, a sentence, a face smiling in another life. The picture itself is not the wound. The sentence itself is not the blade. The smiling face itself has not entered your room to harm you. It is only a small piece of reality appearing before the eyes. But then the tired mind begins to speak. It says, "They are there, and I am here." Then it says, "They have opened, and I have not." Then, more quietly, more painfully, it says, "Perhaps this means I am less worthy of love. Perhaps this means I have wasted my life." This is where the second suffering begins. The first suffering is simple. You see a difference. Their season is not your season. Their flower is not your bud. Their visible life is not your hidden life. But the second suffering is made by the mind. It takes that difference and turns it into a sentence. It takes one image and makes it into a judgment. It takes one moment on the surface of the pond and says it understands the whole depth beneath. My dear friends, this is a very old habit of the human heart. We do not only feel pain. We often build a house around the pain and move into it. We furnish it with old memories. We hang up the voices that once made us feel small. We sit inside that house and call it truth. But the lotus pond does not do this. The pond does not look at a closed bud and say, "You are late." It does not look at a stem beneath the water and say, "You have failed." It does not compare the root in mud to the open flower in sunlight and decide that one belongs and the other does not. Only the comparing mind does that. So tonight, when the thought comes, "I am behind," see if you can place it gently on the surface of awareness. Not to fight it, not to obey it, only to see it. Perhaps the pain is not proof that your life has failed. Perhaps it is only the mind, too tired to be kind, mistaking one stage for the whole story. My dear friends, when the mind repeats one thought many times, it begins to wear a path. At first, the thought may be small. "I am behind." It comes and goes like a ripple on the pond. But if we follow it every night, if we bow to it as if it were truth, it begins to deepen. Soon the body knows the path before the heart has even chosen it. The eyes grow tired, but the hand keeps reaching for the phone. The chest feels heavy, but the thumb keeps moving. The breath becomes shallow, but the mind keeps searching for another life to measure itself against. This is karma, my dear friends, in a very simple way. Not a punishment, not a curse, not a cruel sentence written in the sky. Karma is the path made by repeated intention. It is the way thought becomes speech, and speech becomes action, and action becomes a familiar road beneath the feet. In the mind, the old seed says, I am late. In the inner voice, it becomes, I am failing. In the body, it becomes another hour without rest, another night of scrolling, another morning of waking already tired. And then, because the body is tired, the mind has even less strength to be kind. So the next night, the same thought returns more easily. The same hand reaches again. The same wound is touched again. The same hidden stem is pulled upward before it is ready. This is not because you are weak. It is because a path walked often becomes easy to enter. But my dear friends, what has been repeated can also be seen, and what is seen clearly does not hold us in quite the same way. A lotus stem beneath the water does not need to be dragged by force toward the sun. If it is torn from the mud, it cannot bloom. It needs patience. It needs conditions. It needs the quiet cooperation of root, water, darkness, and light. So tonight, if the old path appears, you do not have to hate it. You may simply notice, this is the path of comparison. This is the voice that calls me late. This is the hand reaching for proof that I am not enough. And in that small noticing, another karma begins. Not dramatic, not loud, just one softer step on a different path. My dear friends, let us return once more to the pond, not to think harder, not to judge ourselves more carefully, but simply to see, there is the mud, dark and quiet, holding the roots no one praises. There is the water, cool and patient, surrounding the stems that have not yet reached the open air. There are leaves still curled inward, buds still closed, flowers already open, and seed pods where petals have already fallen away. All of it belongs. The pond does not divide itself into success and failure. It does not say that the flower is noble and the root is shameful. It does not say that the bud is late, or that the stem beneath the water has missed its chance. It holds every stage as part of one living field. And this, my dear friends, may be the turning of the heart tonight. Perhaps you are not broken. Perhaps you are not behind in the cruel way the tired mind has told you. Perhaps some part of your life is still underwater because it is still gathering strength. Perhaps some part is still curled because it has known winds too harsh to trust the open air. Perhaps some part is still in mud because roots must begin where light cannot yet reach. This does not mean you should stop growing. It does not mean you should sleep forever in the same place. It only means you do not have to hate the stage you are in. A closed bud can still be alive. A hidden root can still be faithful. A stem beneath the water can still be moving toward light. So when the old voice says, you should have bloomed by now, you may answer, not with anger, but with a quieter seeing, I am still part of the pond. My dear friends, there is a kind of peace that comes when we stop tearing at ourselves to prove we are alive. Life does not always announce itself with petals. Sometimes it announces itself with endurance, with one more breath, with one small honest step, with the willingness to remain tender, even before the world can see what is growing. Tonight, let the part of you that feels unfinished be held with reverence, not worshipped, not excused, not abandoned, simply held, like a stem beneath still water, quietly rising. And now, my dear friends, let this seeing become very small. Not a great vow, not a new life plan, not another burden placed upon the tired heart. Only one gentle act. If your phone is near you, you do not have to hate it. You do not have to blame yourself for reaching for it. Simply let it rest. Turn the screen down, or place it a little farther from your hand, as one might set down a cup after drinking enough water. Then bring one hand to the chest, and one hand to the belly. Feel the quiet rise and fall beneath your palms. The body is still here. The breath is still here. Beneath all the stories of being late, being behind, being unfinished, there is still this simple life, entering and leaving through the breath. My dear friends, Do not command yourself to let go. A closed bud does not open because someone shouts at it. A stem beneath the water does not rise faster because it is pulled. Instead, you may whisper inwardly, "Tonight, I do not need to force myself to bloom. Tonight, I will care for the roots." And caring for the roots can be very humble. It may mean sleeping instead of scrolling. It may mean drinking water in the morning. It may mean writing one honest sentence. It may mean speaking to yourself without cruelty. It may mean doing one small task tomorrow, not to prove your worth, but to water the life that is already here. One breath, one softer word, one small step. This is enough for tonight. The pond does not demand that every lotus become a flower before dawn. It only holds the mud, the water, the root, the stem, the bud, and the bloom together. So let yourself be held like that. And now, my dear friends, let the pond grow quiet again. Let the open flowers rest in their light. Let the closed buds rest in their patience. Let the stems beneath the water rest in their slow rising. Let the roots in the mud rest in the dark place that still nourishes them. Nothing in the pond needs to argue for its right to be there. The flower does not boast. The bud does not apologize. The root does not explain itself to the sky. All of it belongs to one living silence. And perhaps, tonight, you may belong in the same way. Not because everything is finished. Not because every wound has healed. Not because your life has become clear to the eyes of the world. But because you are still here. Breathing, feeling, learning, being carried, even now, by conditions you cannot always see. So if some part of you still feels hidden beneath the water, let it be hidden without shame. If some part of you is still curled inward, let it rest without violence. If some part of you is not yet opened, do not stand over it with a harsh command. The night is not asking you to bloom. The night is only offering you a softer place to stop struggling. My dear friends, sleep now as the pond sleeps, holding mud, water, root, stem, bud, and flower in one quiet body. Tonight, you do not need to bloom. You only need not tear up the roots that are still alive. Let them rest. Let them be held. Let them dream beneath the water.